Welcome to this, I suppose, our final session in this block on lessons from leaders. I'm very kindly joined by Ciaran Doherty and Keith Farley this morning, two of our industry experts, and I'm going to introduce them to you in a few seconds. But before I do that, just wanted to remind everyone that you can log your questions onto the chat box. We're going to go through a few questions and answers and basically get a bit of discussion going around sort of the challenges that have presented to businesses in the current climate, and we'll hopefully take any questions then at the end of the session. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Ciaran Doherty, General Manager from Huhtamaki. I'm going to pass over to Ciaran and let him do his own introduction. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Anne. Yeah, I'm Ciaran Doherty, the UK General Manager for Huhtamaki. Huhtamaki is probably not a business that everybody instantly recognises our brand, but we are a food packaging business, and we make product for people like McDonald's, KFC, Kellogg's cereal boxes, Nando's, and a range of other retail customers as well. Based in Northern Ireland, we have factories in Belfast, Antrim, and Lurgan, and we have 3 other factories in England, 1 in Blackburn and 2 right down on the south coast of England.
Thank you for that, Ciaran. I'll now let Keith introduce himself. Keith Farley from Aflac, Northern Ireland.
Thank you, Anne. Keith Farley from Aflac, Northern Ireland. You might have noticed from my accent, I'm not born and raised here in Northern Ireland. I moved over from the US almost a year ago. It was June of last year. And Aflac is a brand that's not widely known here yet, but in the US, we're the largest seller of supplemental insurance. And in Japan, we're the largest insurer in Japan. So it's a type of health insurance that we sell, and we just started the company here in Northern Ireland in October. So it's just a few months in for us with Aflac Northern Ireland. So thank you very much, Anne.
Great. Ciaran, over the past, I suppose, few months, your company have taken on a slightly different direction in terms of the manufacturing of the PPE equipment. I just wonder on that point, how have you used or innovation to propel the business forward in the current pandemic?
Yeah, it's been a really roller coaster ride for us. So whenever the pandemic really took hold back middle or 2/3 of the way through March, like dominoes, all of our big customers started to close up, like literally close. So we went from double-digit growth year on year every year for the last 10 years to, in the space of a week, we lost probably about 75% of our output. So for example, Costa and Starbucks both closed, so we're factories in making cups in south of England closed. McDonald's then closed, so our factory in Antrim, which make paper straws for McDonald's, closed, and the burger boxes and fry cartons, which we make in Belfast. So all of that kind of closed, and we ended up in the space of about a week. The first, after furlough was announced, we furloughed something in the region of about 1,200 or 1,300 people, and that was a really, really difficult situation. I know a lot of other businesses on this call be in exactly the same boat. Not a week that I want to go back to again quickly, but literally in and around that time, I was aware of an initiative that Block Blinds were getting involved in. So Block Blinds is a company based up in Magherafelt. I'm a Magherafelt man myself, and they were getting into business with the NHS, making face shields for frontline medical staff. There's a lot of buzz around the town here in Magherafelt. I became very interested and got in contact with Cormac, who's a guy I used to go to school with that owns the business. Found out a bit about it. At that time, those guys were producing about 25,000 face shields a week, which is an incredible achievement from an absolutely standing start. But the demand was just huge, and the requests, industry had to fall in behind the NHS to effectively create a whole new industry. So we got involved. I got involved with Cormac, understood what the product was, what the process was, and then very quickly realized that a lot of the equipment that we use to make food packaging, we could actually use to repurpose it to make PPE. So we did that. There was an incredibly intensive week or week and a half where we redeveloped Cormac's product to make the design compatible with large-scale, high-speed manufacture. So we did that, and we took from about 25,000 a week. We're now up to a capacity of 4 million a week. So we're producing like tens of thousands of these face shields an hour. And we're doing that in our factory in Belfast. And we're finally assembling them jointly between our second factory in Antrim and Cormac, actually, who has put together an assembly unit in a very large leisure centre here in Magherafelt as well. So it's an incredible journey, and that, I mean, that's like we now are serious providers. One of the single biggest between the partnership between ourselves and Block Blinds from a standing start 6 weeks ago now. I think we're the second or third biggest supplier into the NHS on PPE in the whole of the UK.
That is an amazing achievement, and the speed at which you push that forward, Ciaran, is unbelievable in terms of going from, you know, an industry where you weren't involved in PPE at all to being able to transform and change that around to producing the number of units that you currently are doing, and the buy-in obviously that you've had to have from staff. It's quite a fantastic achievement.
Yeah, the whole team's really proud to be doing it. I mean, there's no better project. I mean, it's definitely one of those projects that everybody in the team will look back and say it's probably the best thing we've ever done, not just because of the speed that we turned it around, but actually the end product and who we're helping. And, you know, we are literally putting a protection between frontline medical care workers and this disease. So it's, you know, it is a genuinely exciting project for us, and every single member of the team is only too happy to put the hours in that they've done, and they've worked hard.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Keith, if I could maybe pass to you, with Aflac NI, you've onboarded quite a significant number of new staff. Maybe if you could tell us a little bit about how you've managed induction and onboarding, you know, in the current climate where all these employees are working remotely.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And Ciaran, I've just got to say it's impressive what your company has done, the speed at which you've done it, and also the fact that it is for that greater good. So it's definitely something that I wish I could say we were making PPE as well, but we're not on our side. So we're a technology company here supporting the U.S. health insurer. When we went into lockdown, we had 19 employees. So we had announced the company in October, started our first hires in January, and January and February we were onboarding folks, and then when COVID happened in March, we had 19 employees. We went to complete work from home. It was relatively easy for us because we are a technology company and we were so new that we had just already bought laptops for everyone and bought these headsets so they could talk to folks in the US and whatnot. So from an equipment standpoint, we were ready to go. But the challenge for us was, how do you, as a brand new company in town, continue to recruit and onboard, you know, and do all the interviews and inductions in a virtual space? So we have now grown to 41 people, and so, you know, we've reached the point where we have more people in our company that have never met another Aflac employee, have never seen an office or done any of those, than people that have, which is definitely a change for us. So we've worked very hard on, you know, how do we maintain the culture, make sure people understand what the company is and what we're doing and why we're doing it, and create both a team here in Belfast while also understanding, you know, what the company in the U.S. does. The company in the U.S. is part of the fight against coronavirus in the States in terms of, as a health insurer, we cover hospital stays and things like that. So almost what we do here in Belfast became even more important. It was always important, but it became more important because the stuff that we're doing here in Belfast is creating digital and online solutions. And now that people can't come see their Aflac representative or meet with Aflac, and we can't have people call Aflac because the call centers are strained, you know, because of you know, the work from home rules. So it actually made what we're doing even more important to the company, to the enterprise. So we've continued to push it forward, but we've definitely had to get creative with onboarding and building culture, and you know, watching out for Zoom fatigue and everything else that goes into that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, what challenges have you found with onboarding so many people remotely, and what have you found has been the biggest challenge, Keith?
Yeah, I think what we took for granted was the ability to get a coffee with someone, or just to sit down, you know, in front of their screen and look at it, or to have lunch or go out for a pint after work. those always seemed like extras to me. They were just nice extras that you got around work. But what I've come to realize is that those were really core to work. Those weren't just extra things you did, going out for lunch or sitting in the cafeteria together,
Yeah.
that was a core part of the culture and of the work that gets done and the collaboration. And so with missing that, we've definitely had a challenge. Every Friday we have a Friday fun activity that we'll put together, which is sort of the equivalent of going out for a pint. So people bring a beer if they want, or wine, or whatever they want if they want to have something. And this one that we've got this week is trivia on golf and tennis, because we have one girl who works for us who is a professional tennis player and another guy who just loves golf. So the two of them are putting it on. So different employees are doing it. Next week we're doing a virtual trip to Portugal because we have two employees that are Portuguese. So they're going to take us on holiday virtually through Portugal. And so, we've done some things like that to try to keep the team together. But, we just want to make sure that people joining our company understand that they're a part of something, and that, while they might be in their home alone, they're a part of something bigger, and it is both local to Belfast as well as, the connectivity to the US.
Yeah, lots of innovation and creative approaches there, Keith, in terms of getting new people settled into their roles, which is so important in terms of staff retention and in terms of their levels of motivation. Ciaran, I suppose maybe just interested, clearly in your environment, in the production environment, there are potential health and safety risks, when people are genuinely concerned about exposure to the virus. And despite all of that, you've managed to get a high level of commitment from staff and buy-in from staff. How have you gone about kind of bringing that to the fore?
Well, yeah, in that turnaround from furloughing all the staff, so in Antrim we furloughed about 70 staff, and in Belfast we furloughed something like 230 or 240. But in the space of 2 weeks, we brought all of those people back again to be making face shields, and then quite a few short-term temporary people as well. And that has been a real challenge. But I think one of the keys to it has been everybody's just been so passionate about and positive about actually trying to help and try to get involved in the project, because everybody believed in it so much. So the trade union has been incredibly involved in coming up with ideas and solutions. And so instead of, I don't want to be unfair to our trade union to be, our local representatives are very proactive and positive anyway, but they have been particularly positive and proactive in finding solutions. So we've done things like, in terms of the PPE, we do have all of our staff now in face visors and face shields, like what we're making. The guys really, they believe passionately in the product as well, and it's actually really useful to get people back to work. We're providing everybody with gloves as well. We have, the obvious things like hand sanitizers at all the different areas, but the guys have come up with more creative things like, staggered start times, so make sure that we don't have any queues and practical things like that. Staggered break times. We've altered our shift starting times just to make sure that we've got an even flow of staff in and out through the sites as well. So rather than, big shift changeover at 7 o'clock in the morning, big shift changeover at 7 o'clock in the evening, we're staggering those start times and staggering breaks. We've repurposed some, so quite a lot of our office staff are now working from home. So what we've done is we've repurposed a lot of the offices as well for breakout rooms for factory staff. We would normally just congregate in the staff canteens. So a combination of a load of different things, but it hasn't really been a hard sell, to be honest with you, Anne, because the guys have been keen to get back to work and keen to get involved. And whenever you get that kind of positive energy from staff, solutions come themselves.
And it sounds like it's been a very collaborative approach. So it's been, your union representatives, the employees, plus management, and everyone has worked together to find solutions. And undoubtedly, they've been committed very much through the purpose of the organisation in terms of what you're trying to do. And I mean, it's very positive to hear how well that has worked. Again, would you have said that you have any particular challenges that have been very difficult to overcome?
Well, yeah, social distancing, there's 2 meters, which is ingrained in everybody's mind, and, factory and environments, manufacturing environments, typically that can be very difficult to maintain.
Yes.
So in some cases, we've had to make some sacrifices in terms of, normally we maybe have 2 people feeding the machine. In some cases now we have got 1. So the other cases where it's literally not possible to run the machine without, 2 meters, we have come up with, in some cases, perspex screens in between operatives, so we find engineering solutions.
Excellent.
So where it's not possible, so if at all possible to put in the social distancing, we do that, even at the expense of efficiency. Where it's not possible at all to do, we put in an engineering solution with the perspex divides, which one of our sister plants actually came up with. I should have said in our introduction, actually, Huhtamaki, we're Finnish business. We're based out of Helsinki, and we have factories all around the world. We just happen to have 6 factories in the UK. So we sit on I sit on a weekly global pandemic committee where we sort of compare notes as to what other factories are doing to get staff back to work and keep staff safe. And this sort of perspex divides between machines is one of our sister plants in Poland to come up with, and I sort of stole the idea with pride, and things like that have helped a lot.
So it's that shared learning between various factories, as well as ideas coming up through the factory as well, in terms of making sure that there are good health and safety practices, and that people are safe in their workplace. Keith, if I could maybe move back to you, and again, sort of touching on the remote workforce in terms of how you've managed to ensure there's good productivity within the business, and how you've maintained the levels of productivity.
Yeah, I would say as a new company, because we just started really hiring in January, we don't really have the baselines of productivity that we would normally have to compare to, where I could say, well, I'm looking at, productivity and this is what's happening, or even sickness, absences, things like that. We just don't have that data since we're so new. What we have found though is that, people are really rising to the occasion of wanting to prove this new company, and we've sort of put it out there as, let's prove to the US that in the midst of all that's happening here, Belfast can band together and we can deliver stuff and have that adaptability and resilience. So I think that our team has really come through. If anything, I'm worried about, I don't want to say over productivity, but I am worried about overwork. I think people are having trouble separating from work and home because it's all in the same physical space now. So, I was on a call last night with a team here in Belfast, and it was 5:30, and then it was 5:45, and then it was 6, and I would normally do that with them, and I told them on the call, I said, listen, I know we've got a big meeting tomorrow that we're getting ready for, that's coming out this afternoon, and it's fine, but this doesn't need to be a habit. I need you guys to turn off your computers and get away from it, because I think that's been a big challenge for everybody, across the pandemic here, is trying to get that separation. So I have no productivity concerns at this point. We've been delivering code, which we're ahead of schedule. We weren't supposed to deliver code until June, and we delivered our first code on April 3rd. If anything, I'm worried about people burning out and putting in so much right now, and recognizing that, as you guys said best during one of the webinars we had with you, we're not working from home. We're at home trying to work during a pandemic, and that's very different than working from home. And so, we're trying to make sure that people realize that. We're trying to encourage people, to not be on video calls all day. The way we were for the first few weeks, we said, oh, this is easy enough. We'll just go on video and it'll be just like we're in the office, but it's not, because you don't get the breaks. So we're encouraging, text messaging. We're encouraging phone, just voice calls versus video. Take a walk while you're on a call, and do that kind of thing versus always being chained to a chair or a camera. So I'd say that that's something that we're looking at, is just how do we break it up. And even we have one employee who, at the end of their work day, they close their laptop, they walk out into their driveway, they get in their car, they do a 3-mile drive, and they park it back in the driveway and say, honey, I'm home. And they mentally get in the car, listen to whatever radio station they're listening to, and then get back in the driveway, so that they've made that transition and that downtime in the car to switch from work mode to home mode. And so we're encouraging whatever works. You've got to be able to switch off the work mode at the right time.
Yeah, because it is that it's getting that break between home and work, because otherwise it all becomes one. There's a risk that it all becomes one type of scenario, and it's encouraging people in terms of good work practices. Keith, maybe if I can stay with you and ask you, in terms of as a leader within Aflac and MI, what are your big learnings? What have you taken away from this whole current situation? What are your takeaways?
Yeah, I think, a big thing that we've learned is just redefining what the workplace looks like. The picture that's on the screen there is our announcement of City Keys, where we signed a 10-year lease for this significant space at City Keys, which obviously we're keeping that space and keeping forward there. But because it's just being built out, it won't be completed until July. The construction team loves us right now because we're saying, well, hang on a second, in this new, post-COVID-19 world, what should the workspace look like? And I think what we're thinking about the physical space and even just how teams work together and how you organize people, I think we'll put more priority on some of the in-person things that we had done in terms of being very intentional about the culture building things we're doing and not taking those lunches for granted and those types of things. But at the same time saying, what is the proper balance? How do you stagger people coming in? Is the office a place where you work, or is the office a place where you meet? And maybe you work from home and meet and collaborate in the office. And so those are things that right now I'm working on with our leadership team here locally, is to say, how do we redefine, what the office looks like, not only the physical space, but also the activities that happen there.
Yeah, and your building plans are still on target. You're still planning to move to your new building, but clearly maybe redefine some of the architectural layout, etc. Is that so? I suppose that has been a challenge, as you say, for the builders.
Yeah, a little bit, and I hope none of them are on this call, because I'll get a bunch of emails saying, "Wait, hold on a second, are there change orders coming?" But essentially, when we signed the lease for the building floor that we bought holds 130 people, and as I stated earlier in the call, we only have 41. So we were only going to build out half of the building now anyway, and then next year we were going to build out the other half. The whole building's getting built, but I guess I should say from a furniture standpoint, we're only going to furnish half of it and then leave the other half for our future growth. So now we're sort of in a situation where we have a significant amount of space per people, and so we can just spread out the furniture we had already bought. And we were supposed to be in there the first week of May. It'll now be the end of July, the building will be done, but I don't see us returning to the workplace until sometime in the autumn, just because we don't have to. It's not, it's not manufacturing where we have to be there in person. We have the ability to work from home, and we think that those that can work from home should for as long as they can. So it'll be some time before we're in there, but we're definitely looking at how do we redesign the furniture and even the egress and ingress and things around what we now know before we move in.
No, thank you for that. Ciaran, for you, what have been the big takeaways from the past sort of 8 to 12 weeks in terms of leadership?
Speed. So we that's the thing that we constantly talk about now, is that we managed to develop a new product, launch a new product, get all the certifications in place, get the machines in place, and do all the training in days and hours, whereas realistically something that kind of scale, probably a normal environment would have taken us months to do. And it's a good lesson to us was that, whenever you absolutely have to do something, and it's, you've no choice, the deadline has to be made, you just find ways to doing it. And the whole interactive way of, I'm not a salesman for Microsoft Teams, but unbelievably powerful tool that Microsoft Teams actually is. Not only is it like the ability to do webinars like what this is, it's also, completely and utterly interactive, where we can share screens and work on each other's documents live, and 3-4 different people working on the document. So, I was sitting on this chair at 3 o'clock in the morning with 6 other members of my team and maybe 2 members of Cormac's team developing a product and getting sign off, and you have all the decision makers around it. And we know that we have at 11 o'clock to make a presentation to the NHS, but we just got it done. And it kind of, we've inspired ourselves really in terms of how quickly you can do things whenever you're up against it like that.
Yeah, sort of agile ways of working, new ways of working, and people embracing new technology.
Yeah, totally and utterly interactive and collaborative working, using the tools which we're all using now, but just that whole sense of an absolute deadline and you must get it done. Whereas, I mean, I think I was a bit like that in school anyway. I never really did my studying until the night before anyway, until I was completely under pressure. I don't know, maybe it's a personality trait, but whenever you have to do something, you get it done. And maybe if it doesn't need to be done for 3 months, you kind of leave it until the end. But to me, it's redefined our time boundaries.
Yeah. No, good. Ciaran, I see we have a question in for you. If I can just read through it. I'd like to ask Ciaran, now that McDonald's and your other customers are beginning the process of reopening, how will you respond to the demands of both ongoing needs of PPE and the demands of your long-term packaging customers?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and it was probably the single biggest risk to us whenever we started this. I mean, whoever thought that McDonald's opening back up again would be a risk to us? But so right now, as we sit here, of about the 1,400 restaurants across UK and Ireland for McDonald's, 550 something of them are already open now for drive-through and for home delivery. Which so we are starting now to see the business warm back up again, our core business. So to mitigate that risk, we're doing two things. Number one, we're using factory sister plants from around the rest of Europe to try to help us build safety stock for products for our core customers in Belfast, just to allow us to continue to have availability for PPE in Belfast. The other thing that we've done is we've invested significantly in new machines and new equipment. So we have already got some of that new equipment in place. And then we have, over the next 6 weeks, we have a range of big plant investments coming to us. So whilst we've been working really quickly, some of our machine suppliers have also been really rapidly innovating to try to break down their usual time barriers to get us equipment and machines in place. So that has worked well. So as it's a blend really, as the business, our core business starts to warm back up again, we are gradually bringing in more and more capacity to make both our core business and PPE. So while, you know, I don't know, crystal ball time, but when will our core business be back to what it was? Will it ever be back to what it was? Nobody can be sure at this stage, but I think that if that's the case in 3 months' time, I will be able to continue with my existing core business and continue to put out what we're currently making in PPE probably in about 3 months' time. So it's just a balancing act now between can I get my new equipment in place in time, or will the new business ramp up in time? And I mean that's something that the rest of Huhtamaki is helping us with, reducing that risk, because I don't want to let down either the NHS or obviously our core business who've been with us for the long term.
And long term, do you think that as a company you will stay in the PPE market?
100%. We all are already an established brand in the NHS. We have all of the certifications to export that product globally. We see that as a really, really nice fit for our core values. You know, we protect food, we protect people. I mean, that's exactly who we are. So we are already putting structures in place in our business to make sure that PPE is a core part of our business going forward, 100%.
Keith, from your side, Aflac NI, in terms of Aflac's NI future here in Northern Ireland, how do you see that in light of the pandemic?
Yeah, so we're being challenged by our owners in the US to accelerate now, because as I was saying earlier, what the work that we're doing here is now even more important to the States. So, you know, I'm getting calls from them saying, do you think you could grow this size? Do you think you could do more there and this and the other? And we felt like we had a pretty big plan, a courageous plan already in place, but we're definitely being pushed from that, which is a good sign for us. We're happy to have, you know, that relevance to the company back there. So, you know, our trick is we want to grow, but we don't want to grow too fast, and we want to make sure that we can maintain, again, that this is the first year we're here, that first year culture. So just balancing the right speed to grow while making sure that people don't feel like a number, that they really feel like they've joined something that they understand. And, you know, this is sort of, we call this team our foundational team, our year one team. You know, the company hopes to be about 150 people over the next 3 years. And if, you know, however the first 50 go, so goes the rest of the company, you know, is our perspective. So we're really making sure that, you know, that we're making the right decisions there and treating people the right way. But, you know, I think for us, this has been a great equalizer as well, because, You know, it used to be that we were the folks in Belfast and they were all in headquarters. Well, now everybody's at home, and it doesn't matter if you're in Belfast, or it doesn't matter if you're in Columbus, Georgia, or New York City. We're all on a flat screen together. So it's been an equalizer for us to you know, be in the same position that they're in. And I think, you know, in the end, when we look back on this, we'll say that this was an accelerator for Aflac Northern Ireland, and really, you know, stuck our claim as in terms of what we do and the difference it makes to our customers in the US.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Just looking here in terms of further questions or any last sort of thoughts from either Ciaran or Keith. Is there anything else that you'd like to close up on?
No, just it's nice to have the time to sit back for the first and just tell the story a little bit. It's been a kind of nice to reflect on what we've done the last few weeks, and appreciate everybody listening. So.
Absolutely. Look, in terms of the success that you've achieved in such a short space of time, it certainly has been an amazing journey and a very successful journey. And from everything you've said, Ciaran, it's a journey that you're going to continue on, and I'm sure you'll absolutely go from strength to strength. And it's also fantastic to see local companies stepping up and moving into the world stage in terms of efforts that they're making, and particularly in light of, you know, the fact that it is PPE, it is helping and assisting our very own National Health Service, and that's an amazing achievement and one that has to be applauded. So look, Ciaran, thank you very much for your contribution, and Keith, thank you also for your contribution. It's fantastic to see a US company coming in to Belfast and growing so successful in such a short space of time, and really for developing that tech space in Northern Ireland even further. And thank you very much for your contribution today. So I think we're kind of at a close now, and just like to say thank you very much to both of you for participating. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Anne.
Anne.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.